There's some things that you don't want to get caught in the middle of. A mama bear and her cubs. You don't want to be in the middle of them. You don't want to get caught in the middle of a couple fighting. That can always be awkward. You definitely don't want to get caught between Earl Thomas and his brother. But most importantly for fantasy football, you don't want to get caught in the middle of your draft and not have a solid set of running backs. So whether you plan on going running back early this year or not, the middle rounds are going to be very important for you to reinforce your running backs and make sure that you have a roster that can win a fantasy football championship. What's up, Headliner Nation? Kyle back with the Fantasy Headliners, and today's episode is going to be all about mid-round running backs. Why is that? Because these middle rounds are going to be really important this year for you to make sure that you're hitting on the right running backs. Now, I know a lot of you that watch this channel and support us through Patreon. I've been doing a lot of mock drafts with you, and you love your running backs early, just like we do. So you might find yourself in a situation where you don't get the running backs that you need early, so then you got to get them in the middle rounds. And if you've watched some other shows that I've done this year, I've told you it's all about attacking, right? Want to win your draft, don't want to not lose it, okay? Just like in football. Well, you got to go get some of those guys early, and these are all running backs that are going anywhere between round 6 and 10. And these are probably the best values that you're going to be able to find, but you might want to move a little bit early on these guys. So let's go ahead and take a look at what running backs you should be targeting in the middle rounds of your draft. All right, these running backs are going to be in order of their current ADP. And one of the first guys you're going to come across in the 6th round is RAHEEM, not quite a must-start. Now, keep in mind, the ADP that we pull here at the Fantasy Headliners is ADP that is consensus across multiple platforms in the industry. So if you look at this and you say, well, he's not going in that area, please keep in mind that this is across multiple platforms. This is the best up-to-date ADP information you are going to find. So with RAHEEM MOSTERT, what are we looking at with him? Is he a guy that we should be spending a mid-round pick on? Each one of these guys have some pros and cons. With MOSTERT, his pros, he had a strong finish to 2019. He was the guy in that backfield. He was the guy that really helped lead them through the playoffs into the Super Bowl and that loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. And they also have a run-heavy scheme, right? We know the one thing that Kyle Shanahan is going to do is he's going to run the football over and over and over. So if RAHEEM MOSTERT is the starting running back to begin the season, you should know that you're probably going to get a pretty decent workload out of him. But some of the cons with RAHEEM MOSTERT, he's never had a full workload, right? This is a guy that really, to begin his career, he was only a special teams player. Heck, when he signed with the 49ers, he only signed as really a special teams player because this offseason he had a big contract dispute with them because he wanted to be paid like a running back. He wasn't being paid like that because when the 49ers originally brought him in, the plan was that he was going to play special teams. Then with injuries and his performance in camp and things like that, they ended up giving him some time at running back, but it wasn't until midway through the season that you really started to see MOSTERT play a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. Even last year, at times he played a little bit here and there, but it wasn't really until this year that you saw him take on kind of a starter's workload from about middle of the season till the very end of the season, and it built up over time. But with MOSTERT, there are backups waiting to take his job. Okay, they brought in Tevin Coleman, a guy that Kyle Shanahan is very familiar with during his time in Atlanta. They have Jerick McKinnon, who was really the big first signing for Kyle Shanahan. They signed him away from the Minnesota Vikings a couple of years ago. Shanahan was really going to utilize him strongly, and McKinnon's been hurt this entire time. So can Jerick McKinnon be healthy? It sounds like he is. So at this point, is Mostert really going to get starter-like workload, or is he going to be a guy that's going to be in a full-blown running back by committee? That's something that you have to keep in mind with him. Now, for me personally, when we get to these mid-rounds, Mostert has the highest ADP right now. He does have really nice upside, but me personally, I'm kind of skipping over Mostert right now and looking at some of these other guys, and then maybe later on in my draft, I'll take a really late shot at Jerick McKinnon, because I think he's going to be a guy that's going to see a lot of work in the passing game, especially with how many injuries that they've had there now. Brandon Ayuk is down with an injury. Deebo Samuel's down with an injury. Dante Pettis sucks. Okay? So they've got a lot of opportunity for someone to step up. If Jerick McKinnon is healthy, you could see him in the passing game really early in the season, which could help propel him to more and more touches throughout the year. Now, the next guy that's coming up in the ADP is DeAndre Swift from the Detroit Lions. Now, throughout the offseason, I've really been careful with his ADP. I haven't really been too eager to jump all over him, but as training camp has worn on, we've seen some things and heard some things from Kerryon Johnson that maybe worry us a little bit about him. With Kerryon Johnson, he still has that knee brace on his knee. He says it's no big deal. He's going to continue to wear it just because it's comfortable for him now. But he also has been limited in training camp so far. He hasn't really been able to do all the things DeAndre Swift has been able to do. With Swift, he has the ability to help in the passing game right away. Kerryon Johnson has not been bad in the passing game over the years, but DeAndre Swift, even from a talent perspective, is much better than Kerryon Johnson. So if you're one of those people that truly believes talent wins out, then DeAndre Swift should end up winning out at some point this season. Now, when will that be? That's the question, and that's part of the cons with him is this going to be a running back by committee? A lot of people look at the Lions over the years and say they really have been hesitant to give anybody a full workload in quite some time. Now, I will argue with you, they haven't had a good enough running back in quite some time to give them a full workload. So with Kerryon Johnson, even over the last couple of years after they drafted him, they really didn't hand the ball off to him too much. Would have liked to see it because in limited touches, he's been pretty good. So are they going to continue to try and get something out of that investment, or are they going to cut their losses and just say, DeAndre Swift is the guy that we invested in this year. He's a much better talent. We are going to go ahead and roll with him. Now, another concern that you have to have as well with some of these rookies this year, again, training camp has been weird. No off-season programs, no rookie camp, OTAs. There's going to be no preseason. So is DeAndre Swift going to be behind the curve at all? Now, the good news is that he's been working out with Matthew Stafford. Heck, he actually went and stayed with Matthew Stafford for a while during quarantine. He went and hung out with him and his family for a while. They did a lot of practicing together, and they really worked on a lot of stuff. So for DeAndre Swift, I don't know if being behind the curve is going to be too much of an issue because of the work he's been putting in this offseason. But it's still something to keep in mind. Pass protections and things like that, is he going to be a little bit behind with that? We know the offensive line for the Lions hasn't been great over the last couple of years. So he really, if he's going to be in there on third downs, he's going to be able to have to pick up some of those pass protections and keep Matthew Stafford off the ground. Now, one of the best running back handcuffs you can have in all of football this year has to be Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt is the guy that really, between him and Nick Chubb, if either of these guys were to miss any time, they're a locked in stone high-end running back one. That's how good these guys are. Now, the pros with Kareem Hunt is the split workload really isn't going to matter too much for him. He is a highly efficient running back. We saw when he came back at the end of last season that he was getting an opportunity to really touch the football quite a bit, and he was doing a lot of good things with it. Now he gets a full offseason with the team. He gets a full training camp with the team, an abbreviated full training camp. I'm doing air quotes, but that's a lot better than what he got last year when he had to end up sitting out time with his suspension. So with Kareem Hunt, I am okay with people investing in Kareem Hunt whether or not you have Nick Chubb. If you have Nick Chubb, I'm almost going to tell you, try to grab Kareem Hunt somewhere around here. Because, again, if anything were to happen with Chubb, Hunt becomes a high-end running back. If anything were to happen with Hunt, Chubb becomes a high-end one running back. So with Kareem Hunt, that's fine. And, again, if you don't have Nick Chubb, you can grab Hunt here somewhere in the middle of your draft in PPR and half PPR leagues, and you're still going to get a guy that's probably going to give you a decent amount of flex play every single week. Now, Chubb is still going to be the starter. Okay, he's going to be a guy that's going to take a majority of the handoffs on the ground. You talk a lot about workload and things like that after Kareem Hunt ended up coming back last year, but Nick Chubb still did just fine in terms of his groundwork. So he should still be a very safe running back. Is there going to be enough targets for Kareem Hunt, though? So Kareem Hunt is a guy that, again, we're picking up hoping that he really helps in the passing game. But then you have to keep in mind you have Jarvis Landry, you have OBJ, you have David Njoku, you have Austin Hooper. So with Chubb, he doesn't have a whole lot of competition for carries. Yeah, Kareem Hunt might get some carries here or there, but with Kareem Hunt, he's got a lot of competition for targets where he really should help flourish. So that's one of the concerns that we have. But again, I'm okay with you running out there and grabbing Kareem Hunt either way because his upside if something were to happen to Chubb is just way too high. The one thing we really got to hope for over the course of the next season or so is that the Cleveland Browns really trim down their backfield and they give us one of these two guys. If it's Chubb, who is there long term right now, that's fine. Hunt, if you can trade him or let him go via free agency, you really got to trim down that backfield so we can get a real true running back one there. But speaking of trimming down, fantasy football season is right around the corner. You might have a draft coming up, whether it be in person or online. They say in sports, look better, play better. I think the same thing goes for fantasy sports. Look better, draft better. And Manscaped can help you trim that down. If you head over to manscaped.com and use our promo code Headliners, all capital letters, you can get 20% off any of their awesome products. The cleanser, the body wash, and hair wash, absolutely love it. I've got it on reorder every couple of months. I get a new bottle sent directly to my house. It's very, very good. It smells great. It washes you up really well. The price is excellent. You can't ask for anything else from manscaped.com. So head over there, get yourself any of the great materials you see here. Code Headliners, all capital letters, 20% off. All right, let's get back to talking about these running backs here. And Cam Akers is next up for me. And Cam Akers is a guy that I have been fading basically all offseason until the last few days. Darrell Henderson over the last few days finding out that he is going to be banged up for a while, it sounds like. So the pros with Cam Akers, he has talent. Okay, we've seen it. During his time at Florida State, we have seen this guy ball out. We know he can play football, and he should be the starter now. Now that we know Darrell Henderson is dealing with a hamstring injury, could end up affecting him all the way into week one, definitely going to be week to week now. Cam Akers is going to end up being that guy moving forward. But the problem is he has a horrible offensive line, okay? His offensive line is garbage. He is going to be dealing with that all season long. And last year we saw that really affected the run game quite a bit outside of Todd Gurley. But Darrell Henderson really didn't do a whole lot last offseason. Malcolm Brown did a little bit here or there. But the offensive line last year was not great, and it's not going to be great again this year. And you also have to ask yourself, who is the real Cam Akers, right? Was his last season at Florida State a fluke? Was it because their offensive line was so bad there? Is it because Akers is just going to be a volatile player? Is he going to show you flashes but then not bring it every single day? Are you going to see some big plays and then the next play maybe he takes it off, or he just, his performances are just up and down. The talent is a roller coaster. We've seen that with guys all the time. They have tons of talent. We've seen it, but they just don't put it together every single play. So is that the guy that we're going to get from Cam Akers, the guy that we saw last year at Florida State? Or are we going to get the guy who the first couple of years at Florida State was an absolute baller and one of the best running back prospects in the country? So that's what we have to be concerned with. However, now that Darrell Henderson is going to be out for a while, Cam Akers is worth a shot here in the middle rounds because more than likely you're going to be getting a starter who could end up having good upside. So of all the guys that we've listed so far, Cam Akers is the one that really kind of has a lock on the starting position. Now, moving forward to the next guy, all of you know this guy well, all right? Mr. Ronald Jones of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we know the hashtag, right? Say no to Rojo. But he's going in the middle rounds right now, and he still is basically the starter for Tampa Bay. Now, his pros we could be looking at a third-year breakout. We see that with some of these players that, those first couple of years, maybe some up and downs, but then when you get to that third year, things start to click a little bit. And with Ronald Jones, not only heading into his third year, but he's heading into his second year with Arians now at the helm. So now he's got a little bit better idea of what to expect from this game plan. He's had a full offseason and a full season with it, and he's the leader in the clubhouse right now. So he's the starting running back. We know that for sure, that come week 1, Ronald Jones is going to be the starting running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The question is, though, how long will he hold on to that job? Keyshawn Vaughn hasn't done anything in training camp to show us he deserves to be the running back 1. Even though Ronald Jones has had a couple of days that haven't looked great, for the majority of training camp, we've heard positive reviews so far, that he's done well in pass blocking, that he looks good, looks healthy. So will Ronald Jones be a third-year breakout? You can use the hashtag #SayNoToRojo, and I absolutely get it. And so far, we haven't seen enough for him to really be invested in. But if Ronald Jones was going in the 4th or 5th round, I would say, yeah, you know what? I understand why you're not going to take him here. But Ronald Jones is going much later than that. He's going in the 7th and 8th rounds, which is a lot better for you to get a ton of value from. And will Tom Brady trust him? We know with Tom Brady that he really likes to have guys around him that he can trust. We've seen it before in New England. If a guy lets him down, he doesn't go back to that guy. So we really have to hope that Ronald Jones doesn't let Tom Brady down, because Tom Brady at any point could say, nope, you're done. I don't want you out here anymore. And then Ronald Jones loses all of his value. But again, because you're going to be getting such a great value on him in like the 7th and 8th rounds, a guy that could end up, if Ronald Jones starts all year long, Ronald Jones is going to be a running back too. That's all I have to say about that. So even if you think he sucks and he's going to end up blowing it, I get that. But if you're drafting Ronald Jones as like your running back 3 or 4, there's some upside and some decent risk, some calculated risk to taking him this late. So I do not hate it this late in your drafts. At least consider it, because it could end up working out. Now, one of the guys that I love this year, absolutely love, I want him on all of my teams. I included him in my league winner video, James White. James White is going to ball out this year. And he's going in that 8th round right now, giving you a ton of value. And the pros for James White are simple. He knows the offense, right? We've seen that over the course of his career, he has been a great half PPR and PPR option. He is going to get peppered with targets. He is going to be out on the field. He knows the offense. He knows how to run it. He's been in New England for a while now. Not only that, but this defense this year is not going to be very good. They have lost a ton of starters from last year. They lost 3 starters in free agency. They lost 3 more starters of guys that opted out for the season. This is going to be a defense that is going to give up quite a bit of points this year. If they're going to be behind quite a bit, James White is going to be on the field a lot. And the hope is that maybe Cam Newton looks at James White in the same way he did look at Christian McCaffrey in terms of using him in the passing game. A guy that he can rely on, that he knows is going to be there in the area that he can check down to. And Cam Newton might not have that rapport with his receivers right away. It might take him a little bit of time. So James White to start the year might see quite a bit of targets. Now, the cons are, obviously, we never know with the New England Patriots, right? Anything can happen. We've been hearing a lot of good reports about Damian Harris. Rex Burkhead is still there. What's going to happen with Sony Michel? So really, anything can happen with the Patriots. I mean, we could invest in James White, and all of a sudden in week 2, they decide, you know what, Damian Harris is the guy. Why? Because we don't care. That's just what they do there, right? They just like to mess with us. I don't personally think that that's going to happen. But you always have that in the back of your head. What could end up happening with the running back situation? James White is the one guy, though, that should see some value because of what he does in the passing game. Now, one thing to consider as well is really James White loses a lot of value when you drop from PPR to half PPR down to standard. Down in standard leagues, you're not drafting James White at all. There's no reason to consider him. In half PPR leagues, yeah, you're considering him, but you would really want to have him as maybe like your running back 4, a guy that you can flex on good weeks. And in full PPR leagues, this is a guy that could end up being like a running back 2. So he's really volatile with that. So it really depends on your league and how many points per reception you're getting, because that could determine where you're going to take him or whether you're even going to draft him. Now, the last guy to talk about here in the mid rounds, he's going to be going around round 10, early or end of round 9, early round 10, and that's going to be Jordan Howard, now of the Miami Dolphins. So this is a guy who, he's been around a little bit now, but he's landing with the Miami Dolphins on a 2-year contract, and he could end up being the starter. Now, they did add Matt Breida, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the pros for Jordan Howard is he should see a bulk of the carries. So we should know that he is going to be on the field a majority of the time. And the good news about the Dolphins this year is that they have a much improved defense. So they really went out and spent, not only through the draft, grabbing some guys in draft capital, but also spending in free agency, adding some really good players on the defensive side of the ball. So if this is going to be a team with a much improved defense that's going to be playing in a division where, yeah, you've got the aforementioned Patriots, who have been really great in the past, but they might not be so great this year. You know, they could end up really competing with the Patriots and playing with them twice a year. You know, that's good game script for Jordan Howard there. The Jets aren't going to be that good. That's going to be good game script for him there. The Bills are probably going to be really good, but sometimes the way to beat the Bills is not to get into a shootout with them. It's ground and pound, control the football, keep Allen off the field with all those weapons, and really try to beat them that way. So he could be playing in a perfect division for what he needs to do. The one con with Jordan Howard that I see, honestly, is that he doesn't get a whole lot of passing work. That's going to be Matt Breida. So he's going to get pulled off the field on third down quite often. You don't love to see that, but again, here in the middle rounds, if you've at least gotten 2 running backs, I think Jordan Howard is a really, really good value. Again, mid to late 9th round, early 10th round is your running back 3, because you're going to have a guy that you put out there every single week. When you put him out there, you know you're going to get some type of points. You're going to get something from Jordan Howard. Honestly, he's a touchdown away from being a running back, high-end running back 2, mid-round, or excuse me, a high-end running back 2, mid-running back 2 for any week. If he doesn't get that touchdown, then yeah, he could be more around maybe, you know, a low-end running back 2, high-end running back 3. But you know he's going to get the rock. You know he's going to do well with it. Over the course of his career, he's been completely overlooked, but he's at the tops of the league in yards, in carries, and touchdowns. He's top 5 in all those categories since he entered the league. Very much overlooked, and now we've got him in an opportunity where we could see him flourish once again. So there you have it, Headliner Nation. Some of my mid-round running backs that you really should be keeping an eye on and targeting in your drafts come draft day. Do me a favor before you head out of here. Got a couple of things to remind you of. Number 1, subscribe to the channel. If you're new to the Fantasy Headliners, become a part of Headliner Nation today. Stick around on our drive to 100,000 subscribers. Hit that like button for me as well. Down below, hit the like button and then comment who's a mid-round running back that you want to have on your team. A guy that you can trust as maybe a running back 3, a flex option, something like that. And also, if you haven't drafted yet, get your draft guide from the Fantasy Headliners. Head to thefantasyheadliners.com. Only $19.99, over 600 pages of pure fantasy football bliss. Headliner Nation, thanks so much for tuning into this video. I'll catch you on the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a good one.